fantasy, caught in a landslide, no escape from reality.
So, Marvel really just can't help themselves. You know, they have to have events. Everything about Marvel now is events. They can't just have it. It's almost like they're afraid of complacency or something. They constantly have to have this new thing to supposedly pull people in and get sales and all this kind of stuff. And I don't really understand it, because if you look at Marvel and you look at DC has Rebirth, which is technically an event, but it's like New 52 or the other ones. And it's just a constant thing going. And since they've had Rebirth, I think Marvel has had around 4 or 5 events, which is unbelievable. I don't understand it. It confuses people. You don't need to do that kind of stuff. So when you do that as well, other things fall through the cracks, and Cable is one of those that falls through the cracks. They have only just now started really kind of advertising Cable, and that's just because the New Mutants showed up. We're like 10 issues in, and you're just now advertising the book. If it hadn't been for it being so good, it would have been canceled by now. You don't advertise anything, and then now they want to talk about Silver Surfer, and it's already canceled. But anyway, moving on. We've got Cable. They went back to the original numbering, so now you don't know what issue you're on, and it really ticks me off, because I want to know what run this is, and I can't because of this stupid kind of crap. They've got Cable on the little ribbon there, and he looks like an actor on that little ribbon with his head there. I can't place who it is, but he almost looks like the Damien Dark actor from Legends of Tomorrow to me. Maybe he would be a good Cable. I don't know. Maybe a little bit too funny for me, but this is the new Cable book that came out. It's Marvel Legacy, and this is the Newer Mutants. And we have this little cover here. I'm not too fond of this cover because I'm not too fond of the artwork style, but it's okay. Has him drawn like a marionette. And so in this book, we have a pretty cool title page here. There's a little bit too much wording here. They could have made this a little bit simpler. It could have been something like pulled from his era and raised in a far-flung future, Nathan Summers has traversed time in an effort to save humanity and mutant alike. That's it. Done. So the writer is Ed Brisson. The artist is John Malin, and the colorist is Jesus Bertov. Now, we're on like our second or third artist for this book, which is kind of silly at this point. What they did was they did a classic Marvel thing where they gave them a really good artist for like the first 5 or 6 issues and then put a different artist on there. And I don't understand. But so we start out here and we get this awesome little sound effect here. Shoom. And they're riding around in the X-Men's Blackbird. And I was like, that's fun. You know, I'm kind of excited. And then we get to this next shot here and we get Cable. And he's drawn okay, but Armor in the background is drawn just pathetically. And then Duke there has got a donut, which I thought was funny. But you're going to find in this comic book, as I keep pointing them out, they keep drawing the background characters very badly. Like they're basically just shapes. They're just twigs with arms and legs. So they make it where they're going. They're going to the Orkhon Valley in Mongolia, and it's 13 years ago from present day. I'm guessing. This just says 13 years ago. And as they get there, there's like a lot of dead people outside. And they show up, and basically the rest of the crew is there. They've been fighting people. They've been killing the bad guys, as we saw in the last issue. And Cable's like, hey, give me the situation report. What's going on? And they said, we ran into Absalom and Cruel. We tussled a bit, but they ran before we could finish them off. So these newer mutants are not to be trifled with. They especially since they have X-23 with them, And this X-23 could whoop the pants off of the all-new Wolverine. How do you draw, or how do you write a character as a side character in another book better than in her regular book? But they do. And so they talk a little bit about where they've been going, and they're doing this quippy thing that I don't really like, and I didn't really catch before, but they give like these little emotions to these different characters. Like Armor is mad there, and they drew a little storm cloud with a lightning bolt overhead, and I was like, what are you doing? Ooh baby, what is you doing? Don't do that. And so then they basically they still think that basically what they're doing is they're investigating why the Externals, which are an immortal race or a group of people, are dying. Somebody's killing them. They're not supposed to be able to be killed. And basically they still think that Selene, the head of the Exiles or Externals, is doing that. And she's not, but they still have their suspicions just because they don't trust her. So basically they all get on the Blackbird, they head out. We get a little quip from Duke. And as they're headed there, they said, you know, they're basically like, why are you so concerned with this, Cable? Why did you recruit us? Why are you so worried that they're killing the Externals? We hate them. And basically X-23 or they mess up here because, oh yeah, they did mess up here because she says, look, it's like the butterfly effect. One small change can result in bigger changes. And then Cable turns around and says, exactly that, X-23. But it's not X-23, it's Armor, because X-23 is sitting in a chair right next to him. Oh, they messed up. I found a mess up. So then he says, I've got no love for the Externals, would be more than happy to see them all on slabs, but it's not the way things are. He's a time cop. You can't be messing with the time. He's going to find out. So then they get to the new place they're headed. They've got to try out they got to talk to one last External to find out, you know, who's exactly doing this. So they go to Gideon's corporation. Gideon is a very rich External. And it's funny right here because they make an Oprah joke, and then I didn't really laugh, but then he says, well, where is this corporation? Because all I see are trees and gullies. Where is this building you seek? And then all of a sudden they walk up and there's this gigantic, enormous door. And I was like, oh, okay, so the door's just here all of a sudden? Cool. So then he's going to blow the door up, but then the door just opens on its own. So they slip in there, and then we get boobs there in the shadow. And then it turns out that there is a robot essence named Eve, which is an assistant of Gideon, and she looks like a past character, but I can't place who it is, but she says she knows Cable back before she was turned this way, and she looks so familiar. I can't remember who that is because now she's a robot. And so basically they walk to where Gideon is, and they see all these chambers filled with liquid and people in them. And X-23 is like, you know, X-23 has a problem with this kind of stuff. She has a history with people being experimented on. Her being a clone of Wolverine, she don't like that. And she said, and then Gideon's assistant Eve says, oh, they're comfortable. They're telepaths and telekinetics. Very powerful indeed. It was they who let us know you were coming and why. Rest assured, they signed up willingly, and their families are being compensated handsomely in exchange for their service. I doubt that. I really doubt that. So then they see supposedly what is Gideon. He's laying on a slab pretty much in a stasis. Apparently Selene had tried to kill him years ago, and he's just been laying there injured ever since. But basically then Cable's not buying it, you know, because he says, look, if you don't mind me, I'm going to look around. You know, it can't be this easy, and that's where things get kind of odd because, you know, Eve's like, you can't really be looking around because we're a corporation. We have a lot of secrets from our investors, and you can't really just be looking at this kind of stuff. And that's where I'm going to start to show you in the background there. It has the figures. You can barely tell that that's even Armor because her drawing is so bad. I mean, this artwork just goes up and down, up and down. So then they get to the point to where they're now examining Gideon's little tomb there, little stasis tomb. Dupe runs up and just knocks on it, and it causes it to go into some kind of danger mode. It sweeps it into the floor, covers it up. The alarms go off, whoop, 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 whoop. And there's like, I told you not to touch that, Dupe. So then we swap to the externals, and they're, are they Eternals? Are they Eternals or externals? Can't remember. Anyway, I'm sure you'll correct me in the comments. But so they all show up to where Cable had just been. This external, whatever he is, was working with the bad guy who we don't know who it is yet. And he basically, just agreed to let him kill him because he's tired of living. So they show up, they're looking around, and they decide that they pretty much know who it is now, but they still have kind of their suspicions, and they burn all the evidence. So at that point, we cut back to Cable and his crew, and here comes a gigantic robot, very 90s style, very cool, very 90s. And his name is Adam, and he's changed. He's been upgraded. So he is on guard. He's wondering why they're messing with Gideon, and he's ready to fight. So it's funny because Cable is very much, to be so smart, he's a very blunt instrument. He's very capable, very smart. He's a telepath, amongst other things, but he's quick to fight. And right here he says, Adam is Gideon's other system. It looks like he got a cyber upgrade as well. So what do? I say we take them down. We're warriors. Let us show them. And then that's when X-23's got her blades out. She looks pretty cool. And then somebody says, holster all your weapons. Cable, it's been a long time. And we get a shot there of Gideon in his like cybernetic strange body. Pretty cool, very 90s. And he says, Gideon. And then we get X-23, and she's like, rrr. So at that point, he gives his grand introduction speech as a supervillain, tells them that he is the one that's been killing the externals. What are they? Eternals? Externals. There we are. Externals. And so he basically tells Cable, that he does it. And Cable's like, look, you don't get to do this kind of stuff. And he says, and you do? He says, who are you to dictate what is and isn't fair play when it comes to altering timelines? Your parents took you into the future. You know what I mean? Don't you just love getting interrupted? But anyway, they're going back and forth about morals, and that's when Cable decides to use what he thinks is his advantage, his telepathy. And he says, won't let you manipulate the past. There's only one directive. So put your hands behind your head, and bam! The eyes open on one of the telepaths, and then he is hit with like a wave of telekinetic and telepathic energy. And he says, did you not see the hallway of my mental militia all dressed in matching white uniforms? It's like having a menagerie of Charles Xavier and Jean Greys at my disposal. Highly recommended if you ever get the chance. Right now, they're turning all your brains into omelets. And he says, they're all writhing in pain, that it's terrible. And then Cable yells, Dupe, and Dupe yells something back. He says, Dupe, throw up a shield. And that's where they use their trump card. And that's when the Cable goes to town on Gideon's face. So at that point, they all start going into action. X-23 makes mincemeat out of Adam. And it's funny because Gideon is not even upset. He says, well, that's truly a disappointment. These robots are intensely expensive to replace. And he says, it's all over, Gideon. No one needs to get hurt here. Very classic 90s action hero. And he says, I beg to differ, Cable. And that's when the doors start opening. He says, I think some people do need to get hurt. And that's when this gate opens and these terrible looking creatures jump out. And I think this is an Easter egg. I think I've seen these before in Cable books. He says, I brought these handsome scrappers back with me from the future. Humanity changed a considerable amount in the 3,000 years I was asleep, but it still hasn't lost its propensity towards violence. So these are supposed to be like super advanced humans or something. And he says, also, thanks for the Blackbird. It's much more practical than how I've been traveling up till now. And the door closes and they start fighting all the creatures. Armor goes into action with her cool abilities. And that's when they start blasting all these things out of the air. And they decide to send, what's his name, Longshot and Armor after Gideon. They're going to kill all the bad guys. And then poor Duke gets hurt. I hope he's not dead. He gets wounded. And then when they get the door open, they realize that it's not better on the outside because now all the telepaths and telekinetics have woken up. We see them all stand there like a bunch of creatures. And there's some creepy twins. Ugh. I hate those creepy little twins. Reminds me of The Shining or something. And that's where it ends. And, that's pretty much how you write a comic book. I mean, I see that they have a new X-Men Welcome to 2099 coming out soon on their little advertisements there, so I'm kind of wondering what that is. I'm going to have to look into that. But here's the thing. This is how you write a comic. You have your hero being awesome. You have him doing good things. You have a good storyline and some good villains that he's got to fight, some obstacles that he's got to overcome. The only thing I would say is the art kind of suffers with this new artist. There's some times when they're walking and it basically looks like a bunch of just misshapen shapes. And you can't, if it wasn't for the coloring, you wouldn't know what they were. I mean, so it's definitely not as good as the first artist that they had, but it's still sufficient. I just really wish that they would get somebody a little bit better or tighten this up somehow, because it hurts the story to me when it's such a good run of a comic book. Cable is one of those solid characters. He's always good as long as you know what you're doing with him, and because he always has something to do. He always has an obstacle to overcome. He's constantly trying to fix time. That's the reason Legends of Tomorrow on TV is so good, because they've got an adventure they can do every day. Literally, they can be fighting Vikings today. They can be fighting dinosaurs tomorrow. They can be Native Americans the next day. I mean, it's endless possibilities, and that's why this story is so good. But I definitely recommend it. Tell me what you think about this book if you're already reading it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And thanks a lot for watching this video. Also, I have a maker support if you'd like to donate to that. That's going to help going towards my new comic book that I'm writing, The Ghost. And I may keep that title. I kind of like that title now that I've worked out more of the story. But if you like heroes like this, if you like heroes that overcome obstacles, have flaws, have problems that they have to deal with, then you'll like The Ghost. So definitely excited about doing that. But alright guys, I'll talk to you later. Underground Geek out.